Dobrodošli, začenja se zadnji Bien Artist Talk, pogovor z umetnico. Danes gostimo Ýr Jóhannsdóttir iz Islandije, ki deluje pod umetniškim imenom Ýrúrarí. Bien je bienale tekstilne umetnosti, ki poteka do 14. avgusta v Kranju, Radovljici in Škofjeloki, ter seveda tudi delno na spletu. Pogovore z umetniki kurira Špela Gale, moje ime je Zala Orel. Welcome, everybody. This was in Slovene language. We're saying good evening from Slovenia, where the Textile Art Biennial Bien is taking place. On our schedule now is our last artist talk, a program curated by Špela Gale, and we are hosting Ýrúrarí, Ýr Jóhannsdóttir. Welcome, Ýrúrarí. Hi.
Yeah, hi, thank you.
Icelandic textile designer and artist Ýrúrarí conquers the world with her knitwear, which in a humorous way draws inspiration from the author's everyday life and turns it into her own knitted narrative. You emphasize a sustainable attitude, and many of your products are based on discarded clothing, which you transform into unique wearable pieces of art. Ýrúrarí, we said you're going to show us your studio first before we start the conversation, and then we're going to have some talk, and later on also questions from our audience will be answered. You can write us in the Q&A or chat section.
Yeah, thank you. I just, instead of doing a PowerPoint presentation, I just wanted to show you a bit around my studio. It's a bit more personal, and I also just moved in last week, so it's a bit messy, but I can show you some things. So I am in Reykjavik, Iceland, and my name is Ýr, like you said. And thank you for having me. I just want to show you a bit around because I have some sweaters here that I can show you, so you maybe see a little bit of like where I started and where I am now. So in Iceland, we learned to knit in school. So I've been like knitting since I was 12. No, 12, I was younger, I was 8 when I started knitting. And then I always like hand knitted sweaters from scratch. And then I started like 10 years ago to develop my like brand that is called Ýrúrarí. And then I kept on knitting sweaters from scratch. But then later on, I learned to use the knitting machine. And this sweater here is the first sweater I made on a knitting machine. It's actually like embroidered on the picture. It's a picture of me eating a hamburger. And there I also started doing these kind of like 3D knitted like elements on the sweater. I just like machine knitted the sweater from scratch, and then I added on all these things. So soonish after, it developed into working with used sweaters, because making stuff from scratch like takes quite a time. And also we do have more than enough of sweaters in the world. So I'm gonna show you here in the big room of my studio. I have like boxes and boxes of used sweaters I've been getting from the Red Cross. And they all, like you can see them here. This is my knitting machine. They are all like kind of sweaters. There is something like wrong with them. There is like a stain or a hole or something in them. And I've been like developing this project of like only using sweaters that like need a second chance before they end up in a landfill or wherever they end up nowadays. And yeah, and you can see also here my last project. I'm trying to figure out like how to make these unwanted sweaters like more worthy and more like giving them like extra value with like being like personal and personality wise. So I collaborated with an illustrator, and I let her like look at this sweater. It all had like holes and stains on it, and see like read what happened to it, and made like a story of like how it ended up, where it ended up. And she made like this illustration of it. You can see it on my Instagram. There's a new post with this like cartoon she made of like this lady that wakes up in a sweater and like all the things that happened to it. So it has ended up in like really fun collaborations, and like it has been growing in a really fun way. And I've also been doing like mending workshops where I help people to fix their old sweaters and doing it in like a creative and fun way, because that is one of the most important things to make things more valuable, is having them personal. And yeah, that's like an intro, but maybe we will also get in on that in the chat. But I just want to show you around before.
Thank you so much, Ýr. So we've seen you've been working mainly in textile, but you're kind of a 3D textile artist. I mean, of course, all of the clothes are in a way 3D, but usually we don't have anything added on our clothes. How would you describe your wearable art? Is it more craft? Do you work more like as a designer, or do you focus specifically on art and exhibiting your works?
It is like mixed. I did study textile design. I am graduated from like the Reykjavik School of Visual Arts and Glasgow School of Art, and the program is called Textile Design. So I have like a design background, but I feel like the approach, because all of the sweaters I make are like one of a kind, because they are all like, I can't get the same sweater twice, and there's always different things wrong with them. So I think it is like, it very like is both design and art, because I do think about the like fabric and yeah, using the right kind of material to have it sustainable. But then I think my approach is like a bit more art-based, because it's very like personal and one of a kind as well. So I think it can be both.
What does a body or body parts mean to you? You use them as an expression of your work and in a way as your message. So what is your message?
I think it's like just the everyday, like it's making the everyday more fun, like you said in the intro. Just taking something that is a thing we see all the time and we wear every day, and make it a bit more funny and like personal. And also like the sweater I'm wearing now, you can like, it changes after like how you move. So that has also become like a part of how I work, because it is different than a canvas or something you hang on a wall, because you do walk around it and your body moves, while like something that is on the wall, it doesn't really go or move that much.
You invented an interesting sort of say medium where your customers become your walls for your art piece.
Yeah,
in a way, so they can go in public and they can move around, and there will be, and everybody will ask, where'd you get this sweater? Of course. How was your what was the idea behind the mask, face mask project that you made?
yeah. So last year, of course, COVID happened, like we all know. And when it started, I was actually preparing like the final like show for my collaboration with the Red Cross, where I got all the stained sweaters from. And I had like, we had taken like photos, the photo shoot was ready, everything was ready, and like a fashion show and everything. And then COVID hit, and Design March, the festival I was going to be at, got delayed. And I didn't really know what to do then with my time, because you know, just locked in my studio and didn't have much to do. And all of a sudden we had this like new accessory we had to wear in our faces that we didn't like know before. So it became another like, yeah, everyday thing that might be a bit more fun, because it's also kind of tragic situation. So I guess I just got inspired by, yeah, the new reality, or like this new, yeah, accessory. And I was just gonna, it was just meant to be like fun, like samples. I was just gonna hang them up in my studio as like like decorations. But then it completely blew up. I was not planning on it to become what it became. So that was a very fun, like, yeah, sometimes things just happen. And that's also what you do as an artist. You are like looking at your environment and reacting to it. So it's basically what happened.
You are using faces a lot, so or the parts of the faces, and you did this before. You showed us the sweater with this big mouth, open mouth, and when COVID came and all this situation with the masks, it was probably very natural for you to continue your work doing something with body parts, with face body parts. So maybe it was not so hard for you to go through this year. You find it inspirational, maybe even more.
Yeah, it was also kind of funny because I had never made anything for the face before, but obviously it fit really well because I do play with like facial expressions and like body parts. So yeah, of course it worked out kind of fun because of course if you put like a funny mouth on your mouth, it does change your whole face too. So it was, I think, yeah, like a fun coincidence that I think would have eventually happened also, that I would have started maybe not face mask form, more like balaclavas or something like that to put on a face because yeah, it does fit really well together.
What did you say? You would start with what?
I think the English word is like balaclavas, like the thing that covers your whole face you use in the winter. What is it?
Aha, okay. So a sort of a hat that you put also
Yeah.
So something for the northern weather.
Yeah, maybe you don't use it.
So it was also probably something that, as you said, it would come up eventually because you're into faces so much. And do you maybe continue work with different parts, maybe glasses or hats or so on?
Yeah, I do have some like beanies I have made. But yeah, I think like I've been asked a lot like if I'm making more face masks because I made this like I don't know 7 or 8 pieces, like, and every single mask was like different. But I'm not gonna make more in the like face mask form because like I think we're all over this COVID phases in our lives. So yeah, but I think I will definitely work more with like hat pieces and stuff like that in the future because they are very fun. But for some reason I always end up going back to the sweaters. There's something about because you do move more, your hands are like moving and you can play a bit more with it.
How do you see showcasing your art a bit? You have your works that are a bit more performative, so you can do a form of a textile sort of fashion show or sort of similar in a form of a performance. How do you see a form of a fashion show for you?
I did do a fashion show last year, eventually when like we had a COVID break in the summer. And there I had like, it was more like, it was very performative. I got like performances, people to like, and dancers to like collaborate with me, not the traditional like fashion show. And it was kind of like we called it like a prevention fashion show because the theme of my last year sweaters was like what happened to the sweaters, where do all these stains and holes come from. So the theme was like hot dogs because in Iceland we eat hot dogs a lot, and they usually, when you're drunk or in the wind or something, you spill all over yourself. So that was like the theme of the line I did, and the theme of the fashion show was like how can you hold hot dogs to prevent like spilling over yourself. So it was kind of like a performative fashion show and also just funny. It was not like that serious, but like still trying to bring out the message a little bit.
How do you see fashion shows in the future, saying like from the, it's usually that fashion shows are more serious and they have this very protocolic, like it's a protocol that women or men or like models are walking. Do you play with the idea of changing, as you said, like the hot dog idea and so on? Do you think that also the industry, the fashion industry, will start to be more aware in a way how little people or normal people eat hot dogs and do the everyday stuff and incorporate it in the fashion shows? Maybe with the COVID era, kind of also like this no fashion movement started and like discarded and secondhand and so on. So do you think that this will be in the future more obvious? It will be more of it?
I hope so. But like a fashion show can be very like theoretical too, like very performative. But yeah, the message can sometimes be a bit vague, maybe, but I hope so. Like it's always fun to go to the theater or dance show, so they should also combine more maybe with fashion. And I think it is happening. Like, yeah, there have been some very creative fashion shows going on already. But yeah, I hope. But regarding to the like message of like sustainability, I hope there will be a bit more of like reused clothes used in fashion shows than they have been now.
You're working a lot to kind of establish this sustainable attitude. The practice that you're working with is very like durable materials and trying to use upcycle the materials, clothes. How this came about? How what's your like what was the idea behind it? You started it now, or it's from your first knitting classes, or when you were 8 years old?
No, it did not start then. When I like, of course, when you study like textile design, you do start to like also research where the fabric is coming from, and like if you were also thinking of like production wise, like where to make the things, you will also realize like it's tricky to like produce a lot, like a big amount of clothes to do with sustainability and also like humane. So it is very, yeah, I think it's a struggle that like every fashion and textile designer goes through if they're thinking of like producing a line or something. It's like how to do it right. And this started like actually when I was studying, because I was making my sweaters from scratch, but it took so much time to make them. So they were super expensive and also time consuming for me. So it was also like an easier way was to just use old sweaters, because at least my work works like that. I'm mostly just adding on things onto a sweater. And that has just evolved into this kind of more like awareness project about like the fashion industry and the problems we're facing with our consumptions of fashion.
You like your project with the hot dogs. It's very funny. It's like,
yeah,
you think of like the sauce is gonna spill on my sweater. It's something that usually art shows or specific artworks don't question about. So the sustainable and the durable and all the awareness about the environmental issues that we're facing, or the world is facing now, you are showing that they can be a lot more funnier than they are. So my question is, do you believe that people are more serious about it if they understand it as a funny issue, or to be shown that also it can also be funny, not just very serious, because people are not drawn into very serious things?
Yeah, I think it's just important when you have an issue like that to have also different approaches to it. And yeah, for a lot of people, like humor is the right way, because it's not boring and it's not like you don't have to like be crying about it constantly, or like because it is like a very sad situation, and we do have to do something. But maybe, yeah, like there is a fun way to approach it. It's also just a way to make people listen in a way, because yeah, it can be hard to get people's attention, especially with like serious things. And of course, it is fun to shop and buy new clothes and like change your wardrobe constantly, but we do need to start taking it more seriously, though. So it has been kind of like a experience of like approaching it in this way. And also like my work is like, I do base my work on humor, and it's kind of just like a knitted comedy in a way. So it's at least like my approach, but people have different approaches on things.
Do you think humor is essential when you're working in the educational projects? You also work with groups. Maybe tell us a little about this part of your work.
Yeah, so now like for the past months, I've been trying out like creative mending workshops where people like either bring their old sweater or like clothes they want to fix, or I also have some sweaters from the Red Cross that need fixing. So it's also just to give them a longer lasting life, so I don't have to fix all of them. And it has become quite fun, because if you think about mending, this also can be a bit like boring. You have to like find the exact like right red color to like mend the like hole in your sweater, but it is way easier to just grab the next like blue or like whatever thing is next to you and just do it in a creative way and a visible way. And it has become like, when I had this workshop, it's like a space where people can like just experiment and go, like they see my work first, so they can like just be a bit wild and like just try out new things there. It's not like a serious space, it's more like a fun space. You can come with a friend or meet new people, and then you're just like trying out these like techniques I show, and like you can use my tools and some of my yarns and like colors. So they're like, the stakes are not too high. You can't just like be creative about it, and it's also to show you can like mending doesn't have to be like, you don't have to be a textile genius to mend anything, or you can have like 10 thumbs. And some of my techniques I show are like really simple, so it's like a very like approachable, or I'm trying to make like a very approachable space and like way to do the mending things. And you also then go out with like a more personal garment. You like there was like a kid, and he put like eggs and bacons on his sweater. It's like his favorite breakfast. So like you can do it in like a personal, more personal ways. It's also like gives the clothing like more value.
You did a digital and also printed, if I'm not mistaken, Slake zine.
Yeah.
Like a manual. Can you explain about what the manual is?
I have one printed here, but they're sold out. I only have them digital now. I also went too often to the post office, so I was getting a bit tired of it. So now you can like have it digital, but it is this. I actually have one sample here. I don't know if you can see it. It's like these tongues that I have been putting on sweaters, and they became like very popular like a few years ago. And I got like a bunch of requests for like this like specific kind of sweater, but I didn't really want to spend my rest of my life knitting the same tongues and mouths, because it is like time consuming. It takes like 1 hour to knit like one tongue, mouth, and stitch it on. So it is a lot of like labor that goes into it. So like instead of also like mass producing and get people working on it for me, I decided to try out doing the knitting pattern. So you could just like make it yourself or get your grandma to help you to make this like sweater you saw on Instagram. So that was like something I decided to try. And like the book is very like, it's very visual. I got my graphic designer friend to like do it. So it's like, you don't have to be an experienced knitter. It's also like pictures that like lead you forward to do it. And I actually like, I've seen so many fun like outcomes from this book. It's way more fun also than if I would have just made all of the sweaters. So yeah, it has been a fun experience doing that. You can see I have on Instagram, like there's a highlight called Slake Sign, and you can see like pictures of, I always like put it there, like pictures I get from people that like have made a sweater, and people are also putting it on like beanies and socks and masks and everything. So yeah,
it has been a great feedback in a way.
Yeah. I was also just so stressed because I'd never made a knitting pattern before that it would like not work, but it did. No one has like said anything bad about it yet. So
is this the only pattern you gave away out?
Yeah, it's the only pattern I have made, but I do really want to like one day, hopefully I can like make a book or something, but I would probably have to have some knitter helpers that know the knitting language to help me with that.
Like the eyes that you have on the sweater.
Yeah. And then also like with the workshops I do, like it's so open, like because I also have been trying out, because at least in Iceland it's cold here, so it's popular to wear like wool sweaters. And there's a fun way of mending is like needle felting, and I did this like fire sweater some months ago. And like you don't have to, only thing you need is your 2 hands to do it. You don't have to know any technique to do it. And then you can also just express, like it's kind of like painting with wool. It's like a very fun way to mend things. So you don't even need a pattern or anything. You just need your like brain and hands to do it.
And
So that was
time.
also, yeah,
A
well,
lot of
it is
time.
quite fast, so you don't need much of a time either. And then you do need the tools though, but they are like easily approached to approach too. So I also been experimenting with like how can like also a person that is not interested in textiles or thinks they like suck at it, how can they also like come to class and feel like they can do something, and yeah, people come that don't know anything really, and they have gone out with like really beautifully like mended needle felted items out of the workshops.
Have you started to do online workshops via Zoom or some other?
No, I haven't really. I'm not that good with long distance teaching, but I did like a little video for. I collaborate with the design school in Moscow, and they made like they cut down like a video for me. It's on YouTube. I did share it on Instagram, like something about the Instagram a few weeks ago. It's actually I do inform like a lot of the things I teach in the workshop, so it's just like a YouTube video.
How do you think social media changed your way you're working or way you're communicating with your audience, or change? How do you think it will be if there will be no Instagram, for example? What do you think you would do?
Ooh, that's a good question. I have, of course, like gotten a big platform there now. I don't think you would have approached me if it weren't for Instagram, for example. Like, there's a lot of things that have come through it, but I think still like people in Iceland are quite creative. I would just be more local, I think, than yeah. I would not get the same like international like requests, but yeah, or I would just end up as a textile teacher. I don't know. In school.
Do you do you have a feeling that you've created like a big community, as you say, like people are knitting your tongues and sending the photos to you? So what do you feel when you see that you in a way approach to these people and you changed a bit of their spare time? Or
Yeah, made them made them do my pattern in their spare time. It's like fun because it's also way more giving than like if I were a brand and I would just like ask like a factory in China to make like 500 sweaters for me, and then I would just like be selling them or something away. I wouldn't be getting the same like personal or like community kind of like feedback as like making people do it themselves. So it's kind of like a win-win because I don't have to go into the trouble of like advertising and shipping and like doing the things, and yeah, it's just making people like, also a lot of people have sent me it's like their first knitting project, so some people have actually like learned how to knit while doing the slate pattern, and some like got their moms to do it with them, so maybe they got like a good time with their grandma or mom to do it. So it is like way more giving than maybe produce it, like always being making things and selling them.
You said if you were a brand, you don't consider yourself as a brand, even though you are not a big corporate brand?
I don't know. Like, I think I consider like Ýrúrarí being more like my artist name, but of course I have like these little labels I put in the sweaters. But like if an artist makes a painting, they usually write the name in the corner. So you have to do it somehow with textiles. So but I don't know. I don't know if I consider myself a brand necessarily. I think people do think I am a brand, and I have been approached as a brand. But I don't really know what it means to be a brand, maybe.
There is probably a lot. People would think that there's a lot of marketing involved, but your marketing is very good. You know, it's because you have so much followers. Like brands would want to have that much followers, and so the engagement that is so high as you have it.
Yeah, but I think there's also just I am kind of lucky with like how my style like works perfectly for Instagram. Like there are like these videos I can do really easily, and like the pictures are very like, because like if you think about textiles, they are very like textural. You kind of want to go and touch them, and they can be like a lot of like a long thought about like the fabric and like coloring and like a long process that is maybe not the most like best thing for Instagram necessarily, even though it's like beautiful and well thought. So I think in a way I'm also just lucky like how my style suits like fits really well into how Instagram works. Like it's so visual and like you don't have to think much to just like, oh, this is like because it's like bright and like funny. So and like easy jokes, you don't have to like understand much to just enjoy it. So
what would you advise? What would be your advice to some young textile art students that want to create something similar, not in a like the same, but something so that people will be engaged with it so much around the whole world, not just locally?
I think it's just like, yeah, just follow your like instincts in a way, and also just like collaborate with people and don't be afraid to share like what you're doing. That would be like my advice. But then it's like it is, of course, if you're trying to get like a bigger platform, it can be tricky with like branding more like abstract or minimalistic things maybe. But it's also like it is important to always like I'm always like photographing my process. Like I have so many photos of on my phone of just like random things I think that are like interesting. So you also just have to maybe it is a lot of work to be constantly sharing your photos too. So we have to put in that extra work to make things happen too.
I will say it again that everybody who's listening and would like to ask questions to Ýr, write in the chat or the Q&A. I will read it out loud and Ýr could answer. I will ask you now a little bit about Reykjavik. We are so far from Iceland, and we're assuming you have a lot of light going on. So would you say that light and day has something to do with knitting? You know, when we say that in the winter dark times, like people gathered and they started to knit together and so on. Do you think it has something to do with your practice as well?
I think like people knit way more in the winter because then we almost have no light at all and it's really cold. I think people probably knit less in the summer, but we also like when you go like because we camp a lot in the summer and then you kind of are awake the whole night because it's so bright outside, but it gets really chilly. So you do need like everyone has a wool sweater, like something woolen, and most grandmas and like people have like homemade sweaters. So I don't know if it's connected with like the light. It's probably also the weather that just influences it. And we do have also like a culture of like wool and knitting. We have our Icelandic wool that we're proud of, and yeah, I think it's just like it goes way back in our culture because we would not have survived if it weren't for the wool. I think we would just freeze to death.
So you would say that there is a part of your work is based on a heritage in a way of the Northern people?
Yeah, like just like the technique of knitting, we learn it at school. So because it's such a big like cultural thing for us, like, and I think there is like a how do you say it? We like honor it a bit because yeah, they still keep it in the school system. Everyone has to learn to knit, and because it's such a big part of our culture in a way.
You have to learn to knit in school. Which grade is that?
You start in 3rd grade to learn how to knit. You always have like textile classes, I think from like 2nd grade until you're a teenager.
Oh wow, so you have like every year you have a class.
Yeah, like every week almost.
I mean every week, of course. Yeah, but
well, like we have like in the school system here, like I don't know how it is, it's different between countries. Like some have like some fine arts, we have fine arts, and then we have like textiles and woodworking and like cooking classes. So those like 4 kind of classes, like they're always somewhere in the school year.
In this is a primary school, and also it goes to, or it goes also into the secondary school or the
like like it's not like you don't have to do it. You can like choose to take some classes then. But like every school in Iceland has at least one teacher like 100% working as a textile teacher.
Wow. Oh, so when you said that if there will be no social media, you would probably work
Yeah,
as a textile teacher,
yeah, that's what I meant.
you would have chances because there's a
Yeah.
lot of need. Okay, cool. It's nice to hear that. Maybe we should consider this in Slovenia as well. Do you think it has something to do with people then treating textiles in a different way because they're more like knowledgeable about it?
Like I wish they did, because I am not doing my master's thesis a bit. Oh, did the
You're gone.
oh sorry, I have to charge my phone.
Oh yeah, okay, do that. That would be.
I will be back. Am I back? Yeah,
Yes,
it's now charged. My headphones will probably fall out soon. What was the question again? Where was I?
You said about that you started to tell about your studies, and I asked if you think that because you are learning textile work.
Oh yeah. Because I have been
something-
now looking into like the consumption of like clothes, and it's actually like Iceland is like America in like buying new things and throwing them away. Even though we learn so much about textile, people are not mending anything still. So like I guess we have some respect just for the crafts, but I don't think it goes further than that, unfortunately. But that's also what I'm looking into, is like maybe how to change the school system a little bit, so they also learn how to mend their socks and like think about that a little bit too.
Okay, you've been one of the countries. I mean, Iceland is one of the countries that it's even smaller than Slovenia. We are usually considered as one of the smallest countries. So Reykjavik, if I'm not mistaken, has about 300. No. It's all. The Iceland has 300,000 inhabitants, but Reykjavik is. How much are you?
It's like whole Iceland is 350 now, so we are growing. I think it's like 200,000 or something in Reykjavik, like the Reykjavik area.
So what's the main, let's talk a little bit before the corona. So what's the main artistic scene in Reykjavik, you would say? Is there a lot of textile, or it's fine art, or it's music, or what's
like there's a lot of music going on here. I think that's like one of the biggest like scenes. And then like fine arts too. And like I feel like the design community is also growing a lot now. It's like it's a very creative and like innovative like community. So I think like there's a lot of creativity going on here. You also have so much space here to maybe explore a bit more than in like big cities. So but like I think music is the biggest one. Yeah.
When you say space, do you mean as like natural space, or there's a lot of empty industrial spaces?
It's more like natural space. Also, like it's maybe more easy to be like visible in a way. You don't get like lost as much in the crowd, so you kind of have the like it's easy to like be known a little bit like than in like a big city maybe.
Do you think it's also more easier to live out of art and craft and design maybe than in other cities?
I don't know about that. Like it's also like if you are selling your work, it's not as like the community is so small that it's not as many people to buy your things. So like for my sweaters, I ship most of them out of Iceland now. So then you kind of need the international like platform to make it work. But now the tourists are coming back, so it will maybe go back to normal.
What's going back?
The tourists are coming back.
Oh yeah, the tourists. So you're selling them then, yeah.
But like then people can like sell their art maybe a bit more.
Would you say that your carbon footprint is bigger because you live in Iceland and you have to send all of the works you make via airplane?
Yeah, like that's the bad thing living on an island. You always have to take a plane to go anywhere. So yeah, definitely. Like also if you attend things abroad, you always have to fly wherever you're going. So yeah, and also like the things we get here, like most of the clothes and like food and everything, it has to be, well, they do have also ships, but like all of it has to be brought here over the ocean somehow. So yeah, it's not that sustainable in a way to be like, I wish Iceland was a bit more sustainable in like growing their own things and doing the things just here. But there is like, I think it's happening, it's coming back now. So
do you think the environment that you live in affects you a lot? Like the melting ice, you know, you're so much closer to the real changes happening. We just hear about them and have a lot of rain, for example. But you really get to see the changes, the transformations of the earth. How does this affect you or your colleagues and the people you with?
like, yeah, like we know, like, yeah, the glaciers are getting smaller, but it happens in such a slow way. You don't like necessarily notice it like obviously, or like it is that slow that like, yeah, you don't like just see it happen, but you know it's happening too. But I think I would think it's like just similar to how everyone else is feeling it. And also, like, I guess it's getting a bit warmer here, and it has been quite cold, so it's also not that like the everyday doesn't feel as bad, but of course it's bad. But yeah, I don't know if it is different from other places. I haven't lived in other places really, so.
You wouldn't, of course, yeah. I've been so you of course know Ólafur Eliasson.
Yeah.
He's been working a lot with a sort of textures or be inspired by the textures of the earth. Like he looks a bit into the geology of the soil, of the terrain and so on. Is this in a way also an inspiration that can be taken for the textile art because of the textures, so kind of a soil and earth that we are like seeing and the changes that you just talked about. Do you see them as a source of inspiration?
Like, I personally don't, like, you've seen my work, it's I'm maybe too like colorful and like different, but there are like artists that do work with it, but it's more like fine arts people that go into this. And it's also like I'm also in like a group, we do like theater shows, so I think it's more like you like see it more in like literature and than in textiles really. But there are like, of course, people like that work with textiles that, but they're more like just coloring things with flowers and stuff like that. But
the natural dyes.
Yeah. But yeah, I hope there are some textile art. There are like some really interesting new textile artists coming, like that are finishing now. So I hope someone will grab on that idea.
Do you lack international artists coming to Iceland? Do you feel the need for that because you are in a way a small island?
Yeah, like I understand if people want to, but I think maybe like we know our environment the best. Like also I think maybe music has also been working a bit more with like the nature, and like Björk has been like tackling these things too, and then Ólafur also. But I think it's also, yeah, it used to be such a touristy thing to think a lot about Icelandic nature because it sells really well with the tourists. So if you are like a fine arts person, it's a bit you could feel a bit like tacky working with nature because it was such a big thing in the early 2000s. So, but hopefully it will come back more.
What did change in the times of Corona for you, or to better ask for artists in Iceland? What changed?
I think we will like see it now soon after Corona, because of course we didn't have the live music or theater, and all of those things went on hold. But I think we're gonna see more like the consequences now when like we are getting vaccinated and it's maybe ending a little bit. But I hope like people like slowed down a little bit, because the pace in Iceland can be a bit fast. So I think I'm hoping there will be some interesting projects coming now, because people have had such a long time to think.
Do you think knitting can be one of those things. It's very repetitive, very mindful in a way.
I know that like a lot of Icelanders took up knitting in Corona, and also like all around the world. Like Icelandic wool is like almost sold out internationally because so many people, they were just buying wool for the past year. So I think that is definitely a thing, and hopefully it will also influence people who just like start making their own clothes and maybe stop buying so many new clothes.
What are the sheep? What kind of wool is it?
It's very rough. It's really itchy. The Icelandic wool is quite itchy, but it's nice though, because it's the sheep here like have to survive like bad weather, and they also have to be super warm. So it's both like really soft and like smooth, like merino kind of, and then like it's also like really rough and like waterproof in a way. But it can't be worked like separate, but the wool factory here mixes it together, so it ends up being kind of like a rough wool, but it's really warm, and it does like throw away water a little bit.
So you would say there's still a lot of like industry, a textile industry in Iceland? It probably was in the past. It was more, but
yeah, it of course got smaller with the international industries getting bigger, but there is still like still going on, and I feel like also like the government and people are like trying to like start new kind of like projects and companies around more like using what we have here and growing like what we can grow in Iceland.
Okay, I would like to thank you for now. Maybe there are some questions from the audience. Please ask us in chat or Q&A. As I said, I think you already know it, but there will be not a lot of possibility anymore, because we will slowly wrap it up with the talk. It was a really nice talking to you, Ýr.
Yeah, thank you.
And also your work. I think it was very important for us also at the Biennial that we had something funny, something that people would say that it's also a bit of, not that like the distressed, or how to say. I believe as what we've seen in the Biennial as well, there's a lot of contemplation, I think, like a lot of thinking about changes and how the world is, where the world is going, and so on. I think it has never been such a change, of course, for like not just this generation, but like few generations now. So it has been a privilege to get to know you and to exhibit some of your works. As you know, we have these posters in Kranj, and we also have a little pictures of your works in the venue of Biennial. So thank you again. I would like to also thank publicly to Spela, who invited you, who's active on Instagram and found you. We have a question from Marco. He just said, thanks for the awesome talk.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Thank you, Marco. Okay, it seems that we opened all the teams and all the questions, and you answered everything that we want to know. So I would just maybe repeat your. You have a website page. It's ýrúrarí.com, and you have a Instagram with the same name. On your page there are like your projects listed very well, and I think it's a nice sort of a nice page to go through and check your work, because it's very fresh and lovely.
Yeah, so, thank you for having me, and I wish I could have come in person maybe next time.
Yeah, maybe in 2023.
Yeah,
it would be really nice. You have been again awesome. Thanks. You got another awesome. You've been saying before we were talking, not publicly, that you have another project in autumn. You maybe want to share a little bit about it with us?
It's a secret.
It's a secret. Okay, yeah. So we will get to know.
You will just see it on my Instagram.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So everybody, let's follow Ýr for her new secrets. So be creative in any ways. Thank you so much for being a part of our biennial, and I hope you will have a nice evening. Yours just started. We are slowly getting the darkness coming.
Yeah, still very bright here, and it will be for a few hours or all night, actually.
So I wish you a lot of darkness. So
yeah, thank you.
Tonight. And yeah, a lot of time and creative force for your work in the future. Thank you so much. So that's it. We are finished with our artist talks for the at the biennial. Come and visit our live exhibitions until the 14th of August. It's in Kranj, Radovljica, and Škofja Loka, 3 cities in Slovenia. So thank you and good night.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.